How we go about developing a staffing plan really depends on who's involved in the operation, what they're doing, and for how long, right? So if you're going through a transition, things are going to look a little different. Timelines are going to need to be defined. And if you're not going through a transition, just general staffing really takes the farm to sit down, look at everybody's skill set, and develop some roles, right? And things that they can be in charge of, be accountable for. You can use tools like a RACI chart. It doesn't have to go that in depth, but helping everybody understand where they fit in the operation, and where they are best, where their skills are best utilized, can help you understand what roles are filled and then what roles do we need to fill and what skills do we need to develop. On the farm, we need to look at roles all the way from operations to mechanics to managing people to negotiating, right, and managing the operations. So the roles we're looking for in farms today are very diverse, and it takes a lot of different skill sets. So if there are roles we can't fill, we do need to outsource to people that can help support us with certain things like agronomy. So it's as simple as getting a whiteboard and writing everyone's name down and putting in what they're in charge of, right? And then looking at what roles we haven't filled. So you could create boxes or an accountability chart that shows, who's the visionary of the operation? Who is the founder? Who's the dreamer? And then who's going to integrate all of those visions and those plans? And then we have other boxes below that one is for marketing, one is for mechanics, one's for agronomy, right? It's defining who you need in each box in your accountability chart. So I like to use the GWC. Get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. So do they get the role? Do they want it? Are they passionate about working in agriculture? Are they passionate about learning? Right? And do they have the capacity to learn what's involved in their role? Right? They might start small and work their way up. We've hired high school students that have started with virtually no operational skills, and now they're trucking, have their 1A, running the sprayer. So it can be taught. It just takes training and development. It really does depend on how you run your business, right, and the size of your operation and who you need, right? I think sometimes we think we need a certain person and they have to look a certain way, but it's also okay to think outside the box a little bit too, that, our babysitter at the farm also can weld and run the sprayer. So does she have a very specific job role? No, it's more vague than that. And there are certain personality types that they're either very general and they're really good at a lot of different things, all the way to very specific. They may be experts in one thing. So it takes a little bit of maneuvering and figuring out what someone is really great at and then where they will fit best in your operation. So a little bit of a vague answer, but it really depends on the person and kind of what they want to be doing and what they're good at. So it takes a lot of clarity. I mean, working in family dynamics can be very complex, and it can also get very confusing if we don't have clarity. right? Clear roles, clear job descriptions, and an understanding of where everyone is putting in their best work, right? So if you have two people and they've got a similar skill set, right, that person may step on the toes of the other person. But we have to remember that if we've agreed to what roles we're doing and where we should be in the operation, in our accountability chart, then we do need to stay in our lane. And if we have that friction and we have that conflict, or we have butting heads, or there's confusion about who's doing what, then it requires a sit down and just a one-on-one with the farm manager and the employee, or the father, or the son, or the daughter, and getting clarity of, here's what I see happening. I want to understand why this isn't clear, or if this doesn't make sense to you. I want to know why this is happening so that we can get more clear on who's doing what, so that the person who's supposed to be doing the job can actually grow their skills, fail, learn, relearn, and have some empowerment in their job, because taking it away from them will never allow them to grow. The hardest position to hire for would most likely be the middle management, or that farm manager role. It takes a certain person with certain values, and those values do need to align with your company's values as well, right? So not only are you looking for someone who can know enough about each area of the business, but they need to care enough about the mission and the vision from the founder. So I would say a farm manager would be one of the hardest roles to hire and get right. Skills that are becoming more relevant on farms today would include technology, ag tech, digital ag. I would say a lot of the numbers, the financials, the bookkeeping. So all the way from digital ag and understanding how we manage that data to our financial data, right? So data analyst would be one, which is not something you would really think about, but we do need the ability to understand how we're doing and how we can improve that. And we can only do that by understanding the data and turning that data into knowledge. I don't know if there are any skills that are becoming less relevant on the farm. Get as much learning as you can, talk to as many farms as you can, join a peer group, and try to really get, what are the top farmers doing? What are the top farms doing? What are the best management practices? How are they learning about the things they don't know, right? We don't know what we don't know. So how do we find out where those gaps are, right? What advisors can we use? What kind of information are you reading and consuming? Where are you getting information from? And how often are you looking at how can we make things better? I think looking at the skills required of the job and matching that to the person. So really thinking about, okay, who is the best combine driver that we've ever had on this farm? What was it about that person that made them the best, right? Was it their detail? Were they cautious? Were they more risk adverse? Were they very, knowledgeable? Did they care about the settings and their efficiency? So really understanding what would be the ideal skill set for a job, and then looking at the person and understanding their skill set, right? I can't say, well, they're disengaged, so it was a bad hire. Disengagement could come from not knowing what they need, right? And as a manager, it's your job to help figure out what they need for the role. And I think all jobs on the farm can be taught. It just takes the right leadership plan and leadership development and training to get that person into the right role. So, or get them the right training for their role. It could be multiple things, but some mistakes we make when we are hiring, I think number one, we tend to bias people that are like us. So if I met someone like me and we thought the same and we had the same kind of ideas, I may hire them over someone who is very opposite of me, right? And generally, we want people that are opposite of us to come into the team because they'll bring in a different skill set and we will learn from them. So that would be one of the mistakes. Another mistake would be not calling a reference and not really understanding how did they perform at their last role or underperform in their last role. I think being very clear on what you need in your hiring process and then following through on those steps. I think the perfect hire is up to you, right? I think it's up to you as a farm manager to make that person into the perfect hire, right? If we go back to the GWC, do they get the job? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? If they have those three things, I think it's up to you as a manager to really mold them into the person and the employee and the leader that they want to become. So it takes work, and they're not going to read your mind, and they are not going to know what your expectations are unless they're said. But yeah, it's about making people feel big and giving them some accountability, but also empowering them so that they can learn and grow.